Collective Awakening Podcast,
sharing truth and knowledge in this time of conscious awakening
with Chris and Stephen. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Collective Awakening Podcast. Chris and Stephen here with you. It is absolute honour and a pleasure to welcome our guest for this episode, Rita Hraiz. It's wonderful that you've taken this time to be with us, Rita. Thank you so much.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for asking me. It's always a pleasure to share something inspiring of the Dharma.
Yes, it's absolutely wonderful to connect, and I feel actually a good place to begin our talk today on this episode is actually where we are in the world right now. And there are so many people at this moment in time trying to remember, to rediscover themselves, to do immersive work, shadow work, as many speak about it, in order to find that fulfillment, happiness, joy, to rediscover it. And I just, as we begin this podcast, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that with individuals and how we could sort of track that and begin that journey.
So when I speak, I'm going to speak from the perspective of being a student of the Ageless Wisdom and Esoteric Psychology, and to give the world view on where we are now from this way of looking, which is taking into consideration the Buddhist path, the Vedic Hindu path, the Christian path, the Islamic path, and then the plant medicine, indigenous earthkeeper ways, the Sufi, and also even the very beautiful teachings of the Kabbalah as well. Like all of the different lineages, all of the different paths concur that in this moment we are in a paradigm shift, collective awakening, and preparing, as far as I'm concerned, to come into a golden age. And today in this time together, I very much like to share inspirations and understanding about that, because the Kala chakra lineage, so this mandala behind me is the Kala chakra, which is a transmission through time and space coming from Shambhala, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from Shambhala, to help activate, inspire, coordinate, and bring people into an understanding which will become a new way of being on earth, as is within heavenly realms, as is predicted in all the traditions, by becoming an enlightened society. So we can then, that brings us to where are we in this moment on earth? Every one of us can feel the ramping up, the enormity of light as the earth itself has come into the middle of the galactic center, the Milky Way, taken 26,000 years to reach this point. And it's a quantum shift, a very enormous level of alignment that there's literally nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The light is so big that humanity right now, to answer the question, although it wasn't succinct, is in the dark night of the soul. Yeah. We are all having to face our shadow and the shadow. This is an age of purification. This is a gateway in time for the next few years. It started about 20 years ago, where everybody in their wake-up process is having to go, oh God, this is what I've inherited from my conditioned imprints, from the very bloodline that I've come through. Everything that is not love and light, like a sweetness, an offering, because as human beings, we're actually designed to align ourselves to the source of creation, the light and the warmth and the wisdom that comes from the central spiritual sun that radiates through our physical sun. that is the information and the intelligence that is activating us into taking a path of right action, which then solarizes us, turns our chakras clockwise, and brings us into alignment, into the awakening. But in order for us to do this, we have to dare ourselves to go into where the pain is. And as you guys know, and as everybody can see, if we were to say, oh, this is a false matrix within a dream, we definitely, so many people are in masses distraction to avoid coming down and in to meet that hurts, that has been covered up by all mechanisms of whether it's addiction to anything, you know, not just the terrible drugs and the way that we consume, but the way that people are just scrolling, desperate to find something that's nourishing to the heart, to bring them back to the center. So we're in a big, turbulent upheaval as a race, which is so needed and so perfect, but is very strong. You know, everybody knows that there's more and more suicide from people that are finding it's very hard to hold the voltage of fire, of electric fire that's coming in right now to help purify us. So yeah, I would really love to be supportive to help people to really understand, to relate it individually of what's going on inside yourself and how can you stabilize in the turbulence of this great awakening, this big unveiling of truth.
Yeah, and I feel that the point you made that I felt for a long while, particularly the last couple of years, is that that has been avoidable is no longer avoidable. It is there. It's in our path. Either we're going to face it or not. Really so. And in this time, I feel quite rightly what you said there. There is so much to distract us, so much that we can put to the outside world, but it's actually the inner. It's even the people that might frustrate us or trigger us. They are showing us something about ourselves that needs further inquiry. So they're actually doing us a wonderful service by doing that.
It's true. There's nothing outside of that. That's true. It's all, everything going on is a spiritual practice, and either consciously or subconsciously created for us to grow. In that same way as planting a seed dark into the darkness in the earth that's going to grow to the light of the sun, we are designed in that same principle, that if in the midst of the darkness of our lives, we're still growing to the light of the source.
Yes.
So what kind of the things, Rita? You know, there'll be people watching the podcast. You know, you're talking about this amazing time of awakening and remembrance, and there'll be a lot of people that are struggling. You know, there are people that are coming to see us. There'll be lots of people seeing you, Rita. What kind of advisement?
Excuse me.
Bless you. So, what kind of advisement could you give people that will help them in their time of awakening? Because there'll be a lot of people that will be struggling.
Thank you for that question, Stephen. So I would start by, I am going to start by sharing a very deep understanding that will begin to permeate and support when you can look at the big picture. If your life right now, if you're waking up and going, oh my God, this is shit, karmically, I'm stuck in this relationship now. I don't even know if I want to be with this partner. I've got kids. I work like on a rat race situation every day. There's no space for me. There's no harmony in my home. I feel guilty and bad. I'm not present to my kids, let's just say. Or another exactly opposite situation. Somebody else is going, I'm really lonely. I really want to be with somebody. if only I could be with somebody, I'm sure I'd be happy, you know, and it's the opposite, right? Whatever anybody's circumstances are, the most important thing to understand is you're not just your body, you're definitely not your thoughts or your emotions. There is something else here. So I want to talk about what the soul actually is and what the light of spirit is. So to make a distinction. So every human on this earth at this time, no matter how deep in the darkness they are, has an eternal self that's at one with the one, that is at one with the source of all creation. At the highest point of your consciousness or my consciousness, we are innate, stainless purity made of cosmic fire. That is the light of your spirit. So when you start to really open yourself to realize you are immutable and eternal, already stainless purity, made of cosmic fire, and your beauty is magnificent, that becomes, that awareness brings us into the understanding that, oh yes, our very purpose to be on this earth is to build the bridge inside ourselves that some people call Jacob's ladder. It's got different names in different traditions, to unveil our primordial wisdom truth body, which is actually in Tibetan Buddhism called the Dharmakaya. That spacious, clear, non-dualistic light that's such an enormous voltage to the ego self would be very frightening. But to the aspirant who recognizes, shit, however I try on this earth, I feel overwhelmed and I can't seem to get to a point where I feel in divine alignment, where I feel clear and spacious and in purpose. So that's like the beginning stage of the awakening, when you recognize I'm sick of being selfish, self-absorbed, just all about me within my little tunnel. And I know that there's something bigger and greater that I need to connect to, that comes from within. And that's, you know, there is basically within the Ageless Wisdom and Esoteric Psychology, there's a really deep understanding how the wake-up process itself, you go through stage 1, which is the alignment of the sacral chakra to the throat center. That's the first stage of coming into right relationship with yourself, where you actually recognize, oh my God, I'm filled with all these negative thoughts, these judgments, and constantly comparing myself, putting myself down. Like, how do I stop this? Because basically I'm judging me and I'm judging everybody else. Where's this coming from? And actually, Chris and Steve, it is a program within the false matrix that our parents have been absorbed. And it's like, think of school children that aren't kind to each other. It's so deep within the matrix. And the first stage of our awakening is to purify this by becoming aware of the one that watches, that isn't the thoughts. This is our awakening. Like in the Hindu path, they would call that Advaita. Becoming aware of the silent watcher, the trained observer that isn't engaged in the drama. So that is so essential to get to the point of stillness where you observe the thoughts, and now you become aware of the observer and you recognize, wow, so I'm not this program that can't shut up. And then once you become aware of that, you don't have to pay heed, you don't have to follow that thought that goes into a spiral loop inside. So you let go of the judgment, comparing yourself, thinking, oh, do I need Botox or whatever it is that people, because think of all marketing, everything you scroll on, is selling you something to tell you you're not enough. That is the wheel of consumption.
Yeah.
So when you become aware of that and you just like open yourself to this presence of the watcher, you're actually opening to the I am presence, the divine intelligence connected to the source of all creation and connected to your highest point of consciousness. And as we go through this talk, I would like to inspire that each one of your viewers takes a moment in their day to consciously invoke the light of their spirit that is the stainless purity of the eternal self, to say, I am ready. Please enter me. Please help me to prepare that I can take the voltage through my spine, through this body of the vastness of all that I am connected to the source of creation, so that I can be here in selfless service to humanity, to uplift and bring the light of peace everywhere I go. So the source, that's the highest point of consciousness, that your spirit, but there is something more, which is your soul. And your soul is the merit that you've accumulated from every good deed, word and action, selfless act of service, every mantra, every prayer, every offering, every time that you were making a beautiful meal for somebody, everything good that you've ever done in all your lives, that is generated as the light of your soul. And it's the only thing you can take with you when you leave this body. It's the actual only thing. You cannot take your money, your wealth, your memories, your family. All you can take with you is the chi, the prana, the life force energy generated from your good deeds, words, and actions that get stored in your chakras. That then goes into what's called the causal ocean. The causal ocean is the plane of the soul, and every lifetime from now on in, what it is, and this is what the Great Awakening is to become soul infused, that the light of your soul is radiating out through your physical form in your purpose, in the offering of you to humanity. And it's a very electric thing, because the soul is made of electric fire. Your spirit is made of cosmic fire. So that's why loads of people right now, loads of your viewers keep experiencing in the middle of the night, or when they're meditating, or at all different times of day, a lot of electricity, shimmering activation in their hands, in their feet, in their groin, up through their spine. This is all what becomes a Kundalini awakening, turning us inside out and giving birth to the brow center being open, so that we can be in revelation, piercing the false matrix, to witness the good, the true, and the beautiful, and become an active, radiant server of light on this earth. And everything I'm saying today is not one single path to follow. It's not a religion. It's everything. It's just everything. It's just truth.
I think it's absolutely so amazing. You speak in our language, and I'm feeling you, Rita. It's amazing. So the purification side I want to touch upon, because this is really important, is that and everybody's on their own path, and we are moving away from the gurus telling us what we should do and assisting us to move within ourselves. I think this is a very important time at the moment. But as we purify, I want to touch upon the shadow a little bit, because there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of people have entrapped themselves in it's shadow work all the time. They keep doing that work, and I think it could be a trap in itself. So could you sort of explain a little bit about what your understanding as we purify? We have to go to those places that are uncomfortable, of course. So if you could sort of explain a little bit more about the shadow, stepping into that uncomfortable space and purify, so that we can step into that higher self, that I am power, so we can make room for that.
Well, the stepping into the I am, I mean, that is very straightforward and simple. And I dedicate my life to holding a container for people to meet that. And actually, even on this podcast, today, if you would like, at the end of this talk, I would love to end where I invite people in to feel their own connection to the presence, the holy I am. That is not
Absolutely.
like some long, arduous journey to get to that over there, because it's always in you, and it's right now in front of you, inside you, above you, below you, and behind you. The omnipresence of the holy I am is it's like, think of it like the way that the light of our physical sun is informing every leaf, every shoal of fish, every flock of birds, every migration of the zebras, and everything, including each human, with the information of God consciousness and what would be exactly perfect for them, for us, in every moment, if we can come into the stillness and the humility to open ourselves to a greater presence than the left brain, ego, mind. The I am is always here. So, but in terms of the question, it's a great question. So observing the shadow could be called observing the false construct. So we as children, our little sweet innocent self, created a big construct to keep ourselves safe from consistent criticism or being shown that you're not quite enough, or whatever the conditioned imprints were at school. Taking, just from being in the womb of your mother, you're going to have absorbed her neurosis, her fears, her insecurities. That went right in to your emotional body. So I talked very briefly about the first stage of awakening is to observe all the negative thoughts. But what that actually starts to do by training yourself to not follow that thought and say that negative, pitchy thing to put somebody down, it starts to turn your throat chakra clockwise. And that literally draws up the energy from your sacral center, which is where all the healing light and prosperity, sacred energy, which is more so often, and especially at this time, we're beginning to see the addiction to pornography, the group rapes on this earth, the massive misuse of sexual energy that violates children, but the massive, it dovetails with enormous materialism, because it's the same energy that can never feel satisfied. It's constantly looking for a bigger and bigger hit, the bigger and bigger car, the bigger and bigger house, the bigger and bigger building. It's always dissatisfied, so it wants something else. It's a wanting, a need to take that never can feel this divine innate satisfaction. So that is the imbalance on our earth today, when all humanity have gone through what we call the first initiation, where they've come into right relationship with their sexual energy. That's going to have purified a whole channel up through the spine that makes a massive change. Now, to answer your question in a more direct way, because I am sorry, I am very esoteric and I have to give the big picture each time, I can't help it. But it's about taking the stance within the unconditional love of the I am presence that's within you, the one that's watching, the same as God giving you lifetime upon lifetime to master and perfect yourself with free will, without judgment. So imagine that you've got that, a little fragment of that within you, the one that's looking, that isn't judging. So it's like, yes, have a look at the shadow of the false construct that wants to make its little excuse for being selfish and looking to position itself to see what can it take from this. Because we're literally, on a very simple way of saying it, we're either in one space or another in any one moment. We're either aligned to the source of creation and feeling fulfillment and a generosity and looking to see what can we give, or we're in lack and we're looking to see what can we take with an agenda. So that is, so we're built on what's called a solar principle, to radiate light in our alignment, or to suck light in the way that a vampire does, to take energy. So we're in one of two places. Years and years ago, there was a series of books, I don't know if you read them, called The Celestine Prophecy. Celestine Prophecy books talked about the control drama of humanity and the different ones. Some people have the control drama of sucking and taking energy by being aloof and making everybody walk on eggshells around them, because they're definitely not going to give you any energy. They've cut off, they've contracted, and now everybody else feels uncomfortable and has to appease them to try and get them out of this taking energy by their aloofness, right? Another person might have the control drama of self-pity, of like feeling sorry for themselves, always bringing that in, they're the victim, and it's a suck of energy, and everybody gathers around them trying to uplift them, and they tell of another reason why they have to stay in this place of self-pity. That's a suck of energy. Another person might be in the bullying, intimidation, because they're so broken within that wounding that they are just constantly bashing out. Another person, it could be, in this Celestine Prophecy way of looking, being constantly asking questions, needing to take energy through pulling somebody off by just constantly asking. So there's many different aspects of the false constructs that the wounded child self can be in, but ultimately what heals it is the observer compassion within. So for ourselves, when we see our shadow, because it's really a big thing, I think a lot of people are seeing their shadow and trying to run. I work in the field where, you know, it's very deep and shamanic, and I'm holding space for people to go in to meet where the pain, the shadow, the part that wants to hold on to, not forgiving the mother for this or the person for that, you know, like that little itchy part that's absolutely attached to stay in the dark in the oneself, contracted, hurting ourselves to hurt somebody else. And then when it melts and you let go and you actually can see the lesson and the beauty of why that helped to bring you in to make your alignment again, that was a gift, not a terrible thing. So I do think it's important not to bypass where we have been in self-absorption and where we've created harm, because everything I'm talking about today is actually about walking the path of harmlessness. This is what the Ageless Wisdom teaches. This is what the Christ taught. This is what the Buddha teaches. That's what every great master that came before us, that walked the way, the beauty way, inspired us to walk a path of harmlessness. Now, harmlessness is not easy, to know how to take what's right action in this moment. Should you report this person that's neglecting their child to social services, or if that child gets taken away, is it worse than them living with their parent? You know, like, what is right action? It's a big thing. So the second initiation is all about discernment and discrimination, and it's the alignment of the solar plex to the heart. And actually, this is where humanity's been lost for centuries and lifetimes upon lifetime, because we all have been going round the emotional treadmill, lost in this mist where we take everything personally. We're irritated, we're agitated, we are in separation, and we're in blame. And the only way to come to the point where the brow center is open and we're in revelation, we're experiencing the highest bliss, and we're at one with the one, is our ability to calm down the solar plex and to stop taking everything personally, to get to the point where we feel the heart, the love, the wisdom and compassion of our heart center that connects us to the very source, to the center, which is everywhere at once, to actually have the ability to put ourselves into another person's shoes, to have compassion for that person's wound and see beyond the wound, to see the light of their soul and hold them in that highest light. That way we're not going into the fight, the battle, because actually that brings me to the point around the shadow. Every human was incarnated, according to the Vedas, the Hindu path, every human is incarnated with the demon and the angel within. And it's down to who we feed. And so whilst we're the point of the wake up, this is the key. The point of the wake up is, how do you subjugate the dark shadow that wants to fight, be separate, hold a position and be in blame? How do you subjugate that part of you? If you try and pretend it's not there, you're going to keep creating situations and scenarios where you're being blamed and this battle goes on outside you and you're still denying that it's you because you didn't transform it and transmute it internally. And so how to transform it internally is to, again, connect with the holy I am presence of the trained observer, and go in with the love, the wisdom and the compassion, just as the Christ and the Buddha and everybody taught us, with loving wisdom, compassion to the untamed tantrum 2-year-old child aspect of yourself that wants to stay in its rage, in its pain, in its self-pity, in its aloofness, in its anger. We have to go in to soothe it with love and awareness and presence. And the presence, when it goes into it, it transforms it to the clear light, to space. And that's the Dharmakaya once again. So that's how I see working with the shadow.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And I know before we were talking a little bit about, as we move in a little bit deep into the podcast, about Kundalini energy activations. And could you sort of explain a little bit about, we talk about that, does the Kundalini awakening happening as we do that inner work, or how does that work? And what is Kundalini?
Okay, Kundalini, Kund. So Kundalini is the Shaktified energy of the Great Mother, the primordial Shakti of creation. So let's start by explaining this, that every flower, every species of everything within this universal solar system, and probably all, is born of the union of the Great Mother and the Father of all creation, their lovemaking, their marriage, their cosmic union. Okay? It's a very powerful energy. And we are designed in our awakening to become an acupuncture point for the Great Mother, her big, enormous vastness, to spiral up through us, to unleash the sleeping serpent at the base of our spine and have this start to be activated. And then that opens to the Ida, the Pingala, the left and right channel, the red and the white, the male and the female, to be activated and open and cross at each of the chakras, to come through the heart, to be alchemized through your heart chakra, to come to the crown of your head, for the Great Mother to meet the Father of all creation, her beloved, through your body, to open you into their divine cosmic orgasmic lovemaking. It's a vast amount of energy that opens you into toroidal, fifth dimensional gamma brainwave consciousness, like a toroidal force like this. And so it cannot happen through somebody telling you, come to my Kundalini activation class. That's bullshit, new age bullshit. It cannot happen by some guru saying, I'm going to initiate you. Definitely not. I have seen it over the last 21 years of working with plant medicines. Definitely it can happen in a ceremonial setting where the person is doing their inner work and consciously traveling through their own central channel. And if they've got the merit through previous lifetimes of the attainments of a lot of what Buddhists would call bodhicitta, they've accumulated a lot of merit through their good deeds, words, and actions, and they've got that they're ripe, like a fruit ripened on a tree, for them to now feel the experience of their soul coming down and in, and their spirit coming through the crown of their head, and this, that their body can safely hold this enormous transmission, this enormous activation of light through their cells, switching on every cell of their body in animation. Then that can happen, but it can also happen, you know, the let's say Buddhist masters that gave trainings of going into the dark for 3 months and taking a particular mantra to work with, to build your geometry. Each mantra builds your geometry around you, opens a field of consciousness around you to safely go into a Kundalini awakening. It's about the safety, because if it happens, let's say from somebody taking an acid tab or some MDMA or a lot of drugs, and there's, because the drugs do not have the intelligence to know, is this person ready? It's a synthesized situation. They're not scanning your consciousness like a plant medicine to see, is this person in a situation where they can hold the voltage of their soul? They're not even in the setting of that, let's say. But people can go into spontaneous Kundalini. I personally went into spontaneous Kundalini awakening in 1994 to 96 for 2 years, because I had started to study and understood now the path of ageless wisdom, and understanding that it's about harmlessness, really choosing the path of harmlessness. And somehow that helped me recapitulate many previous life trainings within what's called the Vajrayana lineage. Deep in mantra, deep. I'm very deeply recognized by Tibetan lamas and masters and teach with them. And this is, you know, like I've had many lives of a lot of mantra practice. So my channels were clear at this point for all of this energy to be activated. So, you know, actually, I really dedicate my life to support people in Kundalini awakening, because that is what's going to bring us to the point where the brow centers open and bring us into what the Tibetans call the golden age, an enlightened society. When the brow centers open, it means that we can see beyond duality. We're not going to keep going into this judgment of light and dark. We have the compassion to include everything with love, but have the discernment to know where to put our energy in every moment. But to come back to this, Kundalini, the Great Mother, can't pass through the membranes of each of there's a sheath between the chakras. And just for those of you that don't know exactly what a chakra is, let me just put it like this. Your chakras are what you bring in with you from your previous life. All the merit stored from each life is accumulated and stored in your chakras. They are lenses to look through. They are gateways that open you into different dimensions. They're either radiant, or they're sucking energy, or they're dormant. So the awakening comes when your chakras are now ready to open. So when the Ida and the Pingala crosses over each chakra, it's absolutely an activation, awakening, opening the lens so that you can go through that gate through yourself. So imagine your solar plex is aligned to the astral plane. There's the, you know, your sacral chakra is connected to the 4 planes of ether, the etheric field. And in the etheric field is the perfection of the fifth kingdom of heaven that's already here and parallel to us, but it's invisible to most people until the brow centers open. When the brow centers open, all of a sudden the mist will be lifted and we're going to see the most sacred palatial exquisiteness that's already existing here within the etheric field of humanity and on this earth, which is when, like in the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Getting to this third initiation and for the Kundalini to rise means that you as a left brain person ego is now ready to give your personal free will to be at one with the will of the one, the will of the creator, to say, okay, creator spirit, I realize I don't have a clue what to do. I always mess up. Please guide me into the right activity within the divine plan each day in every way, with every word that comes out of my mouth all the time. Please purify me so that I am a vessel of your light, love, and wisdom to shine through me. Please show me what to do, where to go. And it's walking with that degree of respect and giving yourself to this light, which means that we have to be naked to come back like innocent, like a child, to recognize that this beautiful creator, you know, it's like the prodigal son returning. If you think about it, like, you know, the whole Bible story of Lucifer was like this beautiful great angel in heaven that says, I don't want to be part of your will. I want my own creativity. I don't want your influence. I know that I can do it all myself. Talk to the hand god. Every single human being has been implanted with this same energy of impotence that doesn't really want to be told what to do by anything ever, to follow an instruction. And so coming home to have this Kundalini rising is when you sincerely, with all that you are giving yourself to the will of the one to say, please guide me. Internally, not with some guru telling you. You know, I know that I wrap my head. That's because I have such a lot of Kundalini activation all the time and it holds it steady. But I'm definitely not a guru. And I'm definitely don't want followers. I'm here to hold containers to help people come down and in and make their own unraveling to inspire to come back to connect with the source of all life.
Amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I really resonate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. I don't know about you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Just an absolute a pleasure to listen to that information and how it was worded as well, which I feel is so important. And a couple of things you touched on there that I wanted to ask you about when you were talking about the electricity that can be
Yes.
felt through the body. And
Yes.
I immediately, my thoughts went to the nervous system and how many of us are feeling that through our nervous system at this moment, and what your thoughts are on that.
Well, guess what? The nervous system actually is the tree of life from within. And so, of course, most people's nervous system is being jangled, overactivated, all of this with all the false stimulation. But also going on parallel to that is all the solar activation from the sun activity is also activating our nervous system, and the way that the planets were. I mean, this last weekend, oh my God, with that whole eclipse, that was strong.
Yeah,
very strong. But so basically, most people realizing that they need to go and sit on the earth or walk the earth, feel the ley lines, connect, to ground themselves. Even the whole thing of the grounding sheets now to calm the nervous system. But I often wake up in the middle of the night with my hands, all this electric fire going through me, and my hands going into mudras and very immense bliss states. You know, like a lot of people are having activations like this, the electric fire coming from the soul. If you don't really understand it, this is why I teach, by the way. This is why I have recognized I have a responsibility to help people understand. I teach at different festivals, I do courses, I have an online thing about telepathy, a full-on shamanic training. About 250 people have done my Ageless Wisdom Shamanic Training Foundation. That's an online thing where I'm going into this in depth and giving people things to read, loads of stuff. So it's your own self-study, but it's about actually your own inner unraveling and excavation inside you. Because you mentioned, you know, like you want to look into this more. This is what I love to help people to deeply understand, because I'm only touching the very, very surface of it, because it is about understanding planes of consciousness, but also the fact that we're one of 7 solar systems, and there are these 7 great rishis that guard the universe, that have, each one has a different stream of consciousness and energy that correspond to the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 notes of the scale, the 7 chakras in our body, the 7 solar systems. And each of those ray qualities, actually, once you start to study this, you get to understand your personality ray, your mental body ray, your emotional body ray, your physical body ray. And whether you're on the ray of harmony through conflict, swinging from here to here, but very musical, very creative, or whether you're very concrete in your knowledge, but you're really amazing at bringing in new ideas and you understand how things work, or in your case where you are very good with community and communion and communication. That's a strong third ray, the throat chakra, and creative active intelligence. Like, it's such a vast study because it spans across all the different lineages and traditions, but it's all about an activation for your own self-realization. So when I come back to the tree of life and the nervous system and this vastness of energy, we're being upgraded in a very big way. Imagine this, right? We're just coming out of a 2,000-year cycle of the age of Pisces, where the 6th solar lord was radiating for humanity in the age of Pisces, an activation to the solar plex, which was called idealism and devotion, and the cleansing of the emotional body. So if you think back to Jesus Christ, when he asked John the Baptist to baptize him in the water, that was the portend of a 2,000-year cycle for humanity to get into understanding this is the time to purify your emotions and develop compassion and love and wisdom from the heart. Now we're coming into the age of in the age of Pisces, the highest attainment you could get was to be devoted to this guru outside of you, or the church, or some outer authority. And now everyone's awakening, go, I'm not giving my power away to something over there. And it's a whole new time. And now we're going into what's called, this is so fascinating once you understand it, and so beautiful. We're coming into the age that's called the age of the 7th ray, the 7th solar lord, that corresponds to our sacral chakra. And it's the age of cosmic divine order and ceremonial white magic. So if you think about that, right, we've only just entered it. It's about 80 years in, but the last 20 years we're really feeling it. Suddenly people are gathering in ceremony all over the earth. They want to come into communion, ceremonial white magic. That's why people love the plant medicines, because they see no guru. We're suddenly harmonizing in the heart. People of all different nations are around the same altar in prayer, singing to the creator. We bypassed any warring. We came together, we purified ourselves. So that's incredible. But where it's going to take us now, so this age is the age of Aquarius, the age of ceremonial white magic. The white magic, by the way, very opposite to black magic, is no manipulation. White magic can only come when you're aligned to the source of creation and left brain is out of the way, and there's absolutely no manipulation. But we're now allowing ourselves to be in the Tao, to allow ourselves that we're being moved to say those words and meet that connection, have that synchronicity, and it's magical beyond our left brain minds. We never planned it. Magic just came. And so now this new time, the age of telepathy, is all about transmission and union of divine consciousness from the soul and the ability to be empty. It's not, so there's lower psychic perception, tarot reading, and thinking is all astral connection of tapping into your desire. It's all kind of based on here. Somebody's going to tell you what you want to hear, or it's very different energy in lower psychism to telepathy. Telepathy can only come when the purification has been done. There's no projection. There's no trying to second guess. There's no thinking you know. It really has to be empty. And when we're empty like that, that's when we can come into telepathic consciousness, because there has to be transparency and translucency between us, which is why as we go deeper into the age of Aquarius, there'll be just complete transparency. Nobody will be able to hide anything. That's why we have to be good. Like, we really do. Like, we all have to, like, just be able to say, look, excuse my language, I was nearly going to say something weird there. I really messed up. I really messed up. So unconscious. I was, like, we have to go back to our children. Those are people who are my age, and say, I am so sorry beyond words for my ignorance and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible to hear. And I just wanted to briefly touch on, and it seems to be just flowing with this little what's being brought in is we've found ourselves lately being very drawn to astrology.
Oh, yeah.
And we find on our journey as individuals, and also in the center, that things seem to come in chapters, in waves. Even certain books are brought just at the right moment when we're ready to absorb this information. And when you start talking there, when you were sharing about the stars and the age of Aquarius, and I thought, yeah, it's something we've been so drawn to lately in individually looking at our birth charts.
Oh, yeah.
And looking towards the stars. And do you think that is useful, important to individuals at this time as well? And what I wanted to add, sorry, just about the astrology that I do like as well, is that the people I've met, that it's not something that can be fast tracked to learn. It really has to take time to fully embrace, and those individuals who can do the charts, and for people that is a skill that they've studied for many years.
You're talking to the right person, because I studied astrology since 11.
Wow.
I am an esoteric astrologer. I really did. If you tell me your ascendant and your chart and your year and everything, I'll just immediately give you a download. I can't help it. I definitely know I studied it in previous lives, because I was really, like, at 11, I couldn't stop asking everybody their birth sign and all this, and what time they were born and that kind of thing. So it is my study. And the difference is this: I don't do predictive astrology. But what I do is I will show people their charts to understand the tool set that they've come in with and how the planets are affecting them, the cycle of opportunity. We just literally are going into a new cycle now with Neptune going into Aries and Saturn going into Aries. And that's really strong, but it can depend on a person, if they're awake or not awake, how it's going to affect them. Like in a Saturn return, some people really struggle and suffer if they're off course in their first Saturn return and feel really depressed, and depends where Saturn is in your chart, if it was next to your sun or whatever. But, you know, it can come and bite you on the bum karmically. But for another person, it can bring structure and focus and the ability to have a boundary. Or it could be around Saturn, let's just say, bring in something to do with the healing with your dad or a big fallout with your dad. So it's very valuable. The sages from all generations looked at people's charts of children when they were little. But if one concretizes to make it into a doctrine like they did around, let's say, Jesus's teachings or any teaching, if it becomes concrete, and, you know, because I can understand, like in the Bible, for instance, a lot of Christians think astrology is deeply evil because people have misused the power of it. People gave their power to the astrologer of being the knower to tell them this is going to happen, this is going to happen. If somebody plants the seed and says, Steve, you could have a terrible accident at this time, Mars is going to conjunct Uranus, that could, you know, like that can really trigger you. Or be careful, you know, you could get into trouble with the law here. If you start putting your energy to focus on that and that becomes your fear, you're going to attract that situation. So it's about the wisdom of the astrologer telling you about the cycle without trying to be the prediction, because your future, this is the key thing. This is why, and I like that you asked this, because I mentioned tarot readers and psychics, etc. None of our futures are created. It is a co-creation in the moment, being revealed and unfolded, and it can be unfolded through a lesser or a higher reality. When we are in union with the one and we're asking for divine guidance to unfold us beyond even our left brain mind's thinking, something will be unraveled that's greater than our left brain mind can conceive, that's much more incredible. In fact, my life blows my mind, actually. I could never, me, Rita, with a big ego, could never have conceived of how incredible my life is. Every day, all the time. Invitations to have gone and run retreats in Sri Lanka or Kenya, or work with this politician or whoever. It's very humbling because I don't have a plan like that. And it just comes out through guidance rather than trying to make it happen and pushing. So with astrology, I think we have to understand that that's why I like esoteric astrology. It's a higher way of looking at it. It's deep and profound. It doesn't mean that traditional astrology, and let's just even put into perspective, we're going to talk about astrology, Vedic astrology. I don't know if you know, but in Vedic astrology, Chris, tell me your ascendant and your sun sign.
Mine's Aquarius, and my ascending one is Virgo.
Okay, so you're an Aquarian with Virgo sun ascendant. So you love being in service and bringing people together. I really hear that. So Pluto's just gone into Aquarius. What date are you? What date? Tell me about
the 12th of February.
Okay, so it hasn't hit you yet. But in Vedic astrology, your ascendant would be Leo and you would be a Capricorn. And that is like such a different thing, isn't it? Because now you've already started to identify with all the Aquarian traits and the Virgo traits, and you can see that self in you. But actually, if you start going into the Capricorn side of you and the Leo rising, you would also see that. And it really surprised me of how, you know, because I'm Gemini rising and Capricorn, but it would make me be probably still just about Gemini or Taurus. I'm very earthy on another level, but it would have made me a Sagittarius. And I can see Sagittarians love teaching. They're very direct. You know, I could totally see that too. So it's, having said that, of 40 years of looking at people's charts in depth, I can see qualities and traits. Like one guy I looked at, I'll never forget this. He had 5 planets in Leo in the 4th house. He was a graphic designer and a photographer. Very humble man, actually. Didn't seem to be so Leo. And he was living in a kind of wooden cabin type situation. And I'm like, you're so not living your chart. Somebody with your chart should be living in a stately home or some magnificent home. I'm surprised. And honestly, a year and a half later, his partner's uncle died and he ended up living in a massive stately home.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, that's really helpful. But 99%, I do see people really live their charts.
Yeah. What I find really interesting there is that Stephen, who I work very closely with all the time and we're best friends, is a Capricorn, and my mum is Leo as well.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. What's your birth date, Stephen?
6th of January. I think I think the way I was born, I think I'm Aquarius rising.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yes. So that means that you're born early morning, around 7.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. Yes. So, yeah, I'm just tuning in. So you are being a bit behind the scenes then.
Yeah.
Do you? But you're the business head.
Are you listening, Chris? I'm the one who's channeling the ideas, and Chris has to put it all together.
Yeah, right. Now, what I wanted to touch on a little bit actually is, because we've discussed quite a few subjects there, and what we've brought in with each one is we're living in a time now. Even I think myself and Stephen have been involved in this type of work for around 20-25 years, around there, when we first joined a group. And things were still quite quiet then around sort of where we were. And now we're living in a time where things are very open. There's a great abundance of whatever name we put to it, holistic work, spiritual work, health and well-being. It is everywhere.
Yeah.
But also as well, with that abundance, that seems to have created its own issues as well. Of everything seems to be getting quicker and quicker, and some of the arts that seem to be gaining something over the course of a day that should take years to study.
Yes.
And I was just wanting to know your thoughts on that as well. And I feel more and more people from whatever walk are identifying that at this moment, of the importance and the need of authenticity.
Yeah, I really appreciate this question. How long have we got? Because that could be a whole podcast in itself about
very current.
Embodiment. It's like really deep. You know, people might come to 3 retreats of mine, 2 retreats, and then suddenly think, yeah, I want to do this, and go to somewhere, do a training for a month, come back, and suddenly open up in presenting themselves as really embodied awakening. But look, at the end of the day, there's definitely that. You watched it over COVID, didn't you? Everybody suddenly started to present themselves as some kind of spiritual teacher or leader. And I've really been looking at it strongly in this last year. And I realize people are inspired to shine, to empower. And it's all down to people having discernment and discrimination. And also, if somebody is magnetizing from their heart and leading people. But there is a lot of shadow and darkness of where people are leading people to as well. Just that whole, if you think about that whole Americanized selling at people to coach them around wealth and pushing themselves into a particular formulation to charge loads of money, doing this or this. I cringe at a lot of it. I have to be honest, I do. And I can't stand that sort of pushy marketing way. But I also realize I will just stay in my lane of be in my heart. And, I already feel I've been in the massive process for years, feeling uncomfortable about charging anything, because for many lives, I know that I've been within the Tibetan system in full austerity and giving everything completely freely. And it's a very fine line onto how to balance with an exchange that feels appropriate in integrity. And I'm very grateful, actually. I have a business partner that really helps to bring some wisdom and boundaries around this side, because I would give everything freely. In fact, everything that I ever get, I give away, because that is my nature. But I don't necessarily think that's great wisdom. And there has to be a balance. One day I suddenly woke up to, wow, I have 4 children. I need to be able to provide for them. This is like, I have to ground this into feeling that I can give them something to help them develop themselves. And that made me feel like, I'm not in Tibet or walking around, the Himalayas. I'm here in the Western world. There has to be a balance. But in terms of how many people are wanting to buy a course and then do something and present themselves, I think that life will unravel where it all goes to and gets to. But maybe, as I said to you at the beginning, we could do an actual podcast where we can go into this on a deeper level of, because there's so many people that holding space, even with plants, that really worries me. I feel like, wow, it's almost like that imposter charlatan syndrome, not understanding. That's why, again, I teach about the planes of consciousness, to understand, where are you in this moment? And if you're holding space for people, do you know how to create a very clear space and keep yourself focused so that it's not opening portals into darkness, and that the whole astral realm is in the room, and that people are exposed to danger? So that actually is something I have a lot of passion around, is about embodiment, opening to the I am presence, connecting to the highest point of your consciousness, and really understanding what it takes for that to be grounded through the body. It's everything I've been talking about today. Yeah, it's a very important subject.
And thank you for sharing on that. And just as it feels, I can't believe an hour has passed, but also as well, it feels like a great deal has been shared in that hour as well. But I feel, as we've talked about these different subjects, what we're sort of headed to or moving into the golden age, the golden era is mentioned. And maybe could you please explain a little bit about the what we mean by that?
Yes, I can. It's my favorite subject, actually, to inspire the understanding of this. And if anybody here is inspired, please at some point get in touch, because there is a Lama, a Tibetan Vajra master. The word Vajra means to cut through the illusion. And he's a Vajra master. He's not looking for followers, but he transmits and teaches about what's called the Kala Chakra, this mandala behind me. And what I'm about to share is, a condensed insight into this vast, incredible inspiration that you are born to be part of already, whether you understand this or not. We're all in it. So how the Tibetans put it is that there is a place called Shambhala, which is in the center of the universe, which actually used to be physically on Earth in the in the Gobi Desert, near Siberia, but the people from there ascended because it became too dark on this Earth for their vibrational consciousness to stay. But they are now on what's called an 8-petaled lotus, encircled by snowy mountains and then fenced by an iron fence. And in this sacred realm that truly exists, I've had many experiences to do with this, and so have many people. There are 960 million cities of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that are in a very highly awakened state, living in absolute fulfillment, always in bliss and always in these sacred mudras that happens as a transmission to myself and many people around the world. It's like the most exalted experience to suddenly feel yourself being moved into these sacred postures, and it's not you doing it. And you feel this light coming through, touching planets and being connected to a network of light. It is full on and very beautiful. And it's what you see in all the Tibetan paintings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They're always in these mudras, but it's not just Tibetan. You'll see it in the Hindu ones too, all the tantric temples. And basically, when I say tantric, I'm talking about states of consciousness and not about sex. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, basically, when you build the bridge to come home to your innate primordial, stainless purity, eternal state, that is the Dharmakaya, it's your spacious, clear light, highest vastness, you're the light of your spirit. When you come home to that, that is your Buddha nature. So basically, it's not about a religion of Buddhas. You could be Islamic, Hindu, Christian. It's the innate state. So in this place of 960 million cities, where they are rotating in fulfillment, there's no need for heating or cooling. There's lotus groves all around them. There's no need for money in this place. They are working alongside humanity to transmit and help awaken through the Kala Chakra practices to help us get prepared for what it's going to take to come into that here on Earth. And that is the prophecy. And so in that, one of the things I've been looking at with Pluto and Aquarius, been really looking at it strongly, is how it's going to affect us as groups of people. Let's just say the group of the medicine community, the group of the people practicing Kundalini yoga, the breathwork community over here, or the Shivites over there, or the Jehovah's Witnesses over there, right? Every group has to learn how to live in harmony with each other and hold each other in the highest light. And how to discern, and yes, you're going to see people's wounds and crap, but how do you act with them? You're going to shun them away and push them out of the tribe? Or are you going to stay in your heart and help them grow? This is a really big one. This is what this next 18-year cycle of Pluto being in Aquarius is going to be about. I'm already watching this. It's really intense. I'm seeing a massive purge within small community groups of people going into feuds with each other, spiritual people that think they're awake, throwing shit at each other. And so literally this is a purge. And if you think about this, how are we in our own families? Do we judge our brother or our sister and think that we're superior? How are we in our relationship? Are we judging and thinking we're more spiritually superior? This is a massive, really deep self-looking. And so we cannot be an enlightened society until we can function in harmony in our lives, in a group, without a false bullshitty level. And then that has to then ripple out, ripple out, ripple out. If anybody's in an inner battle with themselves where they haven't owned their own shadow, darkness, and this horrible part, how can we then judge the politicians outside of ourselves or anything? It's all has to be transformed from within. So that's what it's going to take for us to come into a golden age. It's a big ask, but we're watching an exponential quantum shift on this planet right now, aren't we? Everybody,
Yeah.
My whole life, everywhere I go, I'm only ever having this conversation with people. You know, like everybody's awakening. Shockingly, it's amazing. I really celebrate it, but we're not there yet, but it's going to be happening over this next few hundred years. Humanity is going to look very different in 500 years, very different.
Yeah, and I think, like you said there, Rita, through any walk of life at the minute, people are acknowledging that something is awakening and shifting, and quite often when we've held groups, and you might get individuals who are quite nervous about being in groups, and they're saying, well, I'm in a room with strangers. And my words are actually quite often, you'd be surprised what you hold in common.
Yeah.
Once you get together and start sharing. But also the other thing is, kind of part of me thinks, oh, for goodness sakes, if we can't sit in a group of 8 of us, how on earth are we going to transcend that to the world and come together? So that's where it begins. So I really am in agreement with what you've shared there. And yeah, just coming back to just to sort of complete this wonderful episode, you did mention about is it an exercise or something that you'd like to share connected with the I am power? That'd be a wonderful way to complete if you're happy to.
I would love to. I don't suppose I can share. Could I? I was thinking of sharing some music with it, but would that complicate things?
I'm not sure if we can.
Maybe I could.
Yeah.
I was thinking, could I get a crystal bowl or something?
That's fine. If you need to get anything.
Do you know what? I won't. We just do it without music. It's fine.
Without fine. I just want to add just before we step into this final part of how grateful we are that you've shared your time with us today. And for those who are joining us and listening, please comment, please involve yourself in this conversation as well. And also, if you want to connect with Rita and know more about her offerings, her work, then we will be sharing all her website and also social media connections wherever you're listening or watching to this podcast as well. So I'll just hand back over. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is an invitation to sit up nice and straight, and to, if you've got your shoes on, take off your shoes so you can feel the ground under your feet. Just to take notice of the energy between the ground and your feet itself, like just to take a moment to connect into the soles of your feet, the eyes of awareness connecting with the earth. And I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose, breathing in the light, connecting consciously to the solar angel that's walked with you from the beginning of time. Breathe all the way down to the base of your spine. Hold the breath for a moment and then release gently out through your mouth. And inviting you to just rest your awareness just below the base of your spine. There is a vortex here connecting you to the earth. So I invite you to consciously connect and interface with the Great Mother whose lap you're sitting on right now. To open yourself to her heartbeat through the crystal core of this earth, to welcome her as you consciously take your place on this earth in this moment. And to take in another deep breath, filling your body with light, bringing that breath now into your sacral chakra, connecting with the creativity here and the sacredness of your life force energy. And in this moment, just to bring your awareness all the way along your central channel that's aligned to your spine, feeling your connection, your roots of your nervous system going deep into the earth, deep, deep plug into the earth. And as you travel up through your spine and down into the earth at the same time, bringing the light of your awareness along your spine all the way to the crown of your head, opening to the Father of all creation at the crown of your head. In this offering of all that you are, to the light, the love, and the wisdom of your soul, to invoke that presence. And in this moment, just taking a deep breath to bring your awareness into your heart center, to connect in with this stillness. You can put your fingers to your heart chakra in the center of your chest. To rest yourself here in natural great peace. To feel the silence of the Creator's presence inside you. I invite you to invoke the holy I am presence of all that you are, all that you've ever been, all that you ever will be, into this moment now. To feel that spacious, clear light of the eternal self, the stainless purity of your primordial self. From the point of light within the mind of existence, light streams forth into the minds of all mankind. Light illumines this earth. From the point of love, love streams forth into the hearts of all mankind. I am you, you am I. We are one. From the center known as humanity, purpose and intent aligns in loving service to the one and all. From the center known as humanity, the plan of love and light is now made truly manifest. Love and light and wisdom now restores the balance on planet Earth, and so it is. May the light of Spirit shine upon us, upon all beings and all planes, in all dimensions, now and forevermore, for the ultimate good of all. Om Shanti 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 Om. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, all in the name of the Mother, the Soul, and the collective consciousness of humanity. Ahom Takwyasan.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Rita, for everything you've shared today. We look forward to sharing more in future episodes.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful to invite you back, and we very much appreciate you making today happen, because I know you have a lot going on and I know from your side you worked very hard to make it happen, which is greatly appreciated as well. Thank you to all our listeners. And until our next episode, we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you.